Hello guys and welcome back to a new video. If you will enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments to help me boost this video. Thanks. Story 1. Do I work here or not? This one is kind of different. I was working at Blockbuster as an assistant manager while I was going to school. I would go to classes during the day and work the closing shift. I'm not sure if it was a company or district policy, but they wanted the manager and assistant managers to work a variety of shifts, with each one working at least one opening and one closing shift per week. I had no problem with that, but let the manager know that because of my class schedule, I would only be able to open on the weekend. He was fine with that because no one really wants to open on the weekend anyway. I had been there for about 6 months when we had a manager change. I explained to the new manager about my school schedule and the arrangement with the previous manager. The new manager didn't like that arrangement and wanted his assistant managers to have more flexibility. I told her I understood, but I wasn't going to give up school for this job and gave my 2-week notice. I rarely saw the new manager because she opened on the days that I closed. I worked my normal schedule for the next 2 weeks. A few days before my last day, I looked at the next week's schedule, and I was scheduled for my normal schedule. I enjoyed the job. I got paid a little over minimum wage to talk to people about movies, and it fit my school schedule. The only reason I was leaving was because the new manager wanting me to be more flexible. I thought that maybe the new manager had changed her mind and was willing to be more flexible. Since I had given my notice, I could have left my uniform on the manager's desk and dropped my key in the return box after locking up the store. But since I enjoyed the job and the schedule I was scheduled fit my schedule, I decided to continue working. The next week, I was still on the schedule. I kept working, and I kept getting paid. This happened for about 6 weeks. Then I went in to open the store on a Sunday after being off the previous day. I opened the door and went to turn off the alarm. The alarm said I entered the incorrect code, so I entered it again, same result. After the 3rd attempt, the alarm started going off, and the police were automatically dispatched. I went out front and to get away from the wailing sirens and to wait for the police to arrive. When the police arrived, I explained the situation and showed them my lanyard and showed them that I had the key to the store. I told the officer, "I do work here, lady." The office wanted to talk to the manager, but since I had only met her the one time, I didn't have her number with me, but I explained to the officer where the schedule book was and that it had everyone's number in it. She went in and got the book and called the store manager. I could tell the officer was looking concerned as she was talking to the manager. After she got off the phone, she asked me if I wanted to change my story. I said no, that I was just there on my normal shift to open the store. The officer told me that the manager was on her way down, but informed the officer that I used to work there but quit about 6 weeks ago. I nervously laughed and explained the ordeal to the officer. I could tell she didn't believe me until I suggested she look at the schedule. She even commented that I was scheduled for 4 days the upcoming week. The manager finally arrived and talked to the officer. While they were talking, I took off my polo shirt and handed it to manager along with my lanyard and the keys to the store. The manager then looked flabbergasted and asked me who was going to close the store next week. The officer and I looked even more flabbergasted, looked at each other, and I replied, "Not me, I don't work here, lady." Story 2. I'm interviewing you right now. I'm a woman. I was in my late 32nds at the time. A couple years back, I manage a manufacturing facility. It's a small business with a handful of employees. So we're hiring, and I set up appointments on Indeed. It literally said you will be interviewed by me, insert my incredibly feminine female name, so the person I'm scheduled to interview shows up and I take him into my office, which has a big glass window looking into the shipping room. I'm trying to interview this guy. I think he was about 24, and he keeps looking over my shoulder out the window into shipping. So I'm like, is everything okay? He goes, "When is the interview starting?" I respond, "I'm interviewing you right now." He goes, "Who's that?" and points to my very young-looking early 22nds shipping guy. I respond, "That's Chris him." "Well, isn't he going to interview me?" Once again, "I'm interviewing you right now." Followed by, "Thanks for coming and we'll let you know." On his way out, he walks over to Chris and asks him something. After he left, I asked Chris, "What did he ask you?" He wanted to know why he wasn't being interviewed by him. Story 3. Oh, you cannot get my digits. I graduated college early and started teaching high school when I had just turned 21. On the first day, as we were instructed to do, I was standing in my classroom doorway helping monitor the halls between classes. A 19-year-old senior spotted me leaning against my door frame and made his way over to me, full swagger, charm mode fully engaged. His winning line was, "Hey girl, let me get your digits." I said, "Sure, 34. He looked confused and said, 34. I said, "Yay," and pointed to my classroom's room number. I'm a mess, the music teacher. That's my classroom, room 34. Go to class before I mark you tardy. It was an epic jaw-dropper. The other students around busted out laughing and made a scene as only high schoolers can about the sick burn. Needless to say, word spread fast. Don't mess with the new music teacher. She's got jokes. Story 4. I am the teacher. I've started my master's program, and they have given me a couple higher-level courses to teach while I continue to study. I am only 22, and I certainly look my age. So today, naturally, I walk into my first lab of the semester. In the front row, I notice a handful of peers from my undergrad a few months ago. They see me and say, "No way. It's Opus. Even you had to retake this class," with a bit of smugness at the thought of finding themselves in the same boat as me. With the most smug look I know has ever had the chance to grace my face, I reply, "Nope. I am the teacher." They are stunned. I am laughing. I told them not to worry because they shouldn't fail this time. On another occasion, some students had wandered into my lab room seeking a place to study while I was taking a break in between classes. We ended up chatting for a bit and having some laughs. I suggested we get to studying because the class comes in soon. They say, "Are you sure the teacher won't mind us being in here?" I say I am the teacher, so no, it's no problem. Their attitude went from casual to uptight immediately. Once again, they are stunned, and I'm laughing. I am starting to love the element of surprise. Story 5. I am the train operator, sir. Insert obligatory English, not first language, and on mobile excuse here. This happened a few months ago during the €9 ticket era. For those of you not familiar with it, here in Germany we had a ticket valid for all public transportations for 3 months after the gas prices exploded due to the war in the Ukraine. €9 for a month worth of transportation via bus and trains. Needless to say, our trains were up to their limits. This occasion was no different. The train I previously operated was late due to the amount of passengers at each station along with technical difficulties. Doors had malfunctions. Our trains have a safety mechanism where we can't take off until the computer received the electric signal that the doors are shut. Easy fix, but doing it at every station due to people leaning against it sucks. So I was about 5 minutes late for the next trains I had to take over. As I rushed over to get to said train, I noticed it was full to its limits too. The problem now is, we can only get into the operator cabin by going through the passenger cabin. After a long sigh, I pushed the little green button at the door to get in. A wall of passengers greeted me with annoyed and angry looks. The following conversation, not verbatim, but close enough, ensued. Note, I was wearing my full uniform along with my orange high-visibility vest. There's me, Aga's angry guy. Lee, excuse me, I need to get in. Ag, train's full, take the next one. Lee, no can do. This train isn't going anywhere without me in it. Ag not getting the hint. Train's full, fuck off. Lee, sir, I mean it. Let me in or this train stays here. Ag still not getting it, and now yelling, fuck you. Take the next train. This one's full. Now go away before I break your nose. At this point I looked at him and gave a nod, stepping back from the train and calling my dispatcher. His word, well, if you are still there in 30 minutes, I will mark the train as out of service. About 5 more minutes went by with me standing outside the train before the door opened. An angry guy looked out calling for me, probably because he finally noticed my uniform. I stepped over. Ag, hey, the operator isn't here. Where is he? Lee, oh, he is here. Ag, where? The cabin is empty. Lee, I am the operator, sir. Ag, why the hell didn't you say that? Lee, sir, I told you the train isn't going anywhere without me. Plus, after you threatened me, I didn't feel comfortable talking to you anymore. Now, if you would step out along with all the people in front of the cabin door so I can get in and we can take off, I would appreciate it. He didn't say anything else. He and about 12 other people had to step out. I finally got in and we left the station with a 13-minute delay. Edit, to clarify a few things. This wasn't in Berlin. It was in a more rural area here in Germany. It wasn't with the DB, but a smaller company. Was it petty? Yes. Honestly, for 3 months straight we dealt with all kinds of people. Being yelled at constantly. It took a toll on all of us. Was it an asshole move? Maybe. Unprofessional. No, I am not required to tell people who I am. I wore my uniform identifying me as a member of my company. Rules dictate that passengers have to follow orders given by members of staff, be it operators or service or maintenance staff. Once the threat was spoken, I wasn't required to talk to that ag at all. Did I get in trouble? No, company is on my side. Story 6. Should we tell staff? For first context, I am the lady in this situation. I'm a semi-regular at a local sports bar for their weekly trivia nights, and this was the last one before the holidays, and it had the theme of ugly sweater. I am dressed in such attire, and I take a break to use the restroom, which is on the other side of the place. I get there, and just as I'm approaching the restroom door, with urgency, I'm stopped and warned that there's 2 out-of-order stalls in the ladies' room, and it smells bad with workers trying to take care of it. I admit I'm not paying attention to what the nice lady is wearing, and say, "Oh, thank you." And as I'm pondering if I should run into the men's room because I still have to go, I look to the lady who is walking by me again, and say, "Should we tell a staff member?" This poor lady looks at me and goes, "I'm staff. That's why I warned you about the restrooms." I apologize and she keeps walking, and I do risk the smell in order to use one of the working stalls, as it was an emergency, but I was the lady, and sadly, by the time I left, the staff had blocked off the bathrooms entirely while they waited for plumbers to come to the building. Story 7. I do work here. Lady, don't worry, I'm not pregnant. I work retail, pricing items on shelves. I'm 18 Fahrenheit, but look very young and generally exude a nervous, unsure, and very kiddish sort of energy. I wear a Christmas jumper, it's my dad's, so it's too big on me a bit, as an optional uniform choice, and in my opinion, most of the time I do the opposite of exuding I work here energy. I exude energy that makes people double take and go, "Oh, you work here," even though I have a bulky portable scanner and printer slung over my shoulder, and I'm printing out barcodes and stuff, which I can't imagine a customer would be doing. Today, I was pricing the health section, and I picked up a clear blue pregnancy test. And a lady, who was humming along to All I Want for Christmas blaring over the store's speakers, as she approached from behind me, came up to me and said, "Oh, if you're looking at those ones, they're not any good. Oh, you work here." She was shocked, then she just giggled and said sorry and left. I was sputtering because I didn't really expect the social interaction, so my brain stalled. So I just ended up smiling back and saying, "Ah, thank you for the information," which, typing out, I now realize sounds kinda sarcastic, but there wasn't a bit of it in my voice, really. To be honest, I just thought it was very nice of her to come up to someone she thought was perhaps a tiny anxious teen holding a pregnancy test, and not offer any judgment, but just a small piece of fair advice. Her smile was nice too. I just think she seemed nice. I did work there, and I wasn't having a pregnancy scare, but thank you anyway. I will bank that information for if I ever need it. Story 8. I'm not the repairman, am I? In my teens, I got a part-time job at a store. The store was a franchise of a national chain, something like Sears. I was the first male, and for a few years only employee at the store. All female wore long to the ankle teal dust jackets, then had a short above the knee dark blue. I often got mistaken for a repairman or janitor. I walked around the store doing all kind of tasks. Shelving, ordering, bakery, inventory, tills, but also repair and heavier, dirtier duties. One time I had to make a shelf at each cash register to lay bags on. I went into the register, crouch under the till, and screw brackets and place the shelf. No biggie. At one till a colleague was cashing customers out, and I was laying down between her legs with my upper body in between the footboard and the register itself. As I was done, I tapped on her foot so she could move a little backwards and I could get up. Imagine being a customer and you see a teen boy rising from between the legs of a sitting teen girl wearing a long dust jacket with his face towards her. The sound of the little cordless screwdriver a few minutes earlier could be confused for something else too. I do work here, lady. Story 9. I'm literally wearing my uniform, and I have a key. So I used to work at the Way of Speed for almost 3 years. I was one of 2 full-time closers, so that meant I had a key. We usually closed at 11 p.m., but on Friday and Saturday it was midnight. Now to the story. On this night, it was a weekend, so I was going to be there until midnight. I cleaned my store, closed the tills, locked the door, and wait outside for my boyfriend to pick me up. 30 minutes later, he finally shows up. I get in the car, and as we're just about to pull away, a lady cop pulls up behind us with lights on. She walks up to the driver's side door and asks what we were doing there. I tell her that I work here, and I just closed, but my ride, pointing to my boyfriend, was late. I'll see, well, it looks suspicious being in the parking lot after closing. How is it suspicious that I'm at my job after closing when I'm the one responsible for locking the door? I even showed her my uniform shirt. I'll see, well, it's still suspicious. I don't remember everything that was said, but my boyfriend began to argue with her, and she eventually let us go home. That was 4 years ago, and to this day I wish I would have just unlocked the store and set off the alarm. SMDH Story 10. Story 10. Ender at my work thinks I'm a homeless person. I worked as a language teacher for a cultural community center. The building was often rented out for different events. Most Fridays, we had a dance group come in and host a ballroom dance for around 4 hours. I had a key card so that I could open up the building, and I was allowed to let the organizers of the dance in when they got there, even if our regular office person wasn't in yet. I rode the bus and walked with a walking stick. I can totally see that I would look like I don't belong there, so I wasn't mad about this incident. This particular day, I got there and let the organizer in, then realized I had a couple things I needed to get from the childcare room for my class that day, because I used some of the toys for my classes when we worked on life skill vocabulary. I didn't go to my room first to drop off my coat and backpack, which I should have done. By the time I got the supplies and was making my way back upstairs, the regular office person had arrived and was letting in vendors catering for the dance. As I was making my way through the lobby, one of the catering crew steps in front of me to block my path. She said, "How did you get in here?" I said, "I work here. I have a key card." She told me that I didn't work there and that she'd report me to the office. Just then, the office person came out of the office, took one look at me, and told the lady she's our language teacher. She belongs here. The lady, red-faced, got out of my way, and I walked upstairs to my classroom. Story 11. Playing trains. This dates back to the early 2000s, when in the UK the most common way to plan your train journeys, before the local franchises had decent websites, was to phone up a service called National Rail Inquiries, who would provide you with all the details you needed, at least in theory. My now ex needed to travel into London on a Saturday, and being a nervous traveler, she phoned up asking for a route with no changes and no replacement bus service, which is often laid on at the weekends to cover sections taken out of use for engineering works. As she hung up, I looked at the details she'd noted and immediately spotted something that looked wrong. So I picked up the phone, hit redial, and by a lucky chance I got the same guy and confirmed the journey details with him. And there are no engineering works on that line. Him, no, there aren't. Can you just double check that for me? Him, starting to sound slightly irritated. Okay, sir, there are no engineering works on that line on that date. You're absolutely sure about that? Him, slightly more irritated now. Yes, sir. You're certain? Him, now clearly getting annoyed. Yes, sir. That's interesting. Him, an exasperated sigh and tone dripping with condescension. Oh, and why's that, sir? Because I'm the technical officer supervising ripping out and replacing 200 meters of rail on that line between Station A and Station B. So I'd be very interested in hearing how you intend getting your trains into my work site, and what you plan on running them on when they get there. There was a pause that went on for a few seconds too long. Then, as if the entire preceding conversation hadn't happened, he said, "Due to engineering works, a replacement bus service will be operating between. At which point I interrupted him with my own exasperated sigh. Yes, I know. I just basically told you that. Now I'm going to hand you back to my partner. This time, can you please give her the information she's asking for? Not the most dramatic example, but I found it quite satisfying at the time.